Good morning, everybody. Welcome to your Rangers Review morning briefing. It is Wednesday, the 11th of June. I'm Derek Clark, and I'm joined this morning by Joshua Barry. He's not been on for a wee while, but how's it going, Joshua?
Working hard in the background, Derek. I'm fine. I think I was last on after Russell Martin's press conference with Chris at Ibrox, where we're kind of talking through the implications. Chris was still not convinced, although he had an afternoon of researching a little bit more Russell ball on Monday. And I think he's
Russell ball. Is that what we're calling
it? I don't know if it was Chris who called it that actually, so I'm not going to take ownership. But I think you've got to wait. You've got to see the ball first before you call it anything. But I'm happy to be on. How are you?
All good, thank you. No complaints, and just pleased to be back on talking all things Rangers. Plenty to discuss, despite no action to get our teeth stuck into. But there's plenty of transfer speculation and bits and bobs doing the rounds. But before we get stuck into that, a quick word for our podcast sponsors, as ever, the great guys at Willows Fencing, the Glasgow-based fencing company you can trust. Proud partners of the Rangers Review. They've got over 20 years of experience in unparalleled quality. Their qualified team is dedicated to keeping customers happy and providing exceptional work, aiming to deliver nothing but perfection in every job. They offer free consultations, whether it's a small-scale refurbishment or a large-scale complete fencing project. And they're also offering 10% off any products with the code Rangers Review. If you head over to their website, which you can see on the ticker below, willows-fencing.com. Right, we'll kick off. I mean, transfers are rife at the moment, Joshua. Rumours and what have you, a lot of noise doing the rounds, and players, numerous players have been linked with moves to Ibrox. You've got a piece on the website that appeared yesterday with a bit of an update on where the club are with regards to incomings and potential departures as well. Where are we with regards to that? We'll take departures first of all, because over the weekend, there was reports that Cyril Dessers was attracting interest from AEK Athens, which is nothing new. That they have been linked with him before. Robin Propper, we know, has been linked with heavily linked with a move back to FC20. But where are we with regards to potential outgoings at this point in time?
Yeah, well, the piece, which is a bit long because it tries to give a lot of context and kind of background information, also explains why the new structure that Rangers have moved to, namely having the sporting director, Kevin Thill. We've got an interview with him on the website this morning with Chris, and well worth a read. But one of the reasons that's so important, Derek, is it's been a bit of when Rangers haven't had this position in place. Even from what we understand, it points the process of how transfer bids are accepted or rejected, who's got the final say on that, can become a little bit convoluted. And ultimately, what I think is important to remember is the reason that most clubs don't have the manager as kind of the head of football operations, if you will, one making the decisions, the one with the final authority from the football point of view, is because the manager's always got to think short term. The manager's always got to think about the weekend. So to start on outgoings, one detail we've got in the pieces that Rangers turned down offers for Cyril Dessers and Ridvan Yilmaz in January. They both, at that moment in time, I can't remember where Ridvan was up to, but they were contributing in the Europa League. Certainly, Dessers has had that great performance against USG, obviously finished as the league's top goal scorer, and I know you and Chris spoke about him yesterday. However, there are also players who Dessers is at a certain age and Ridvan has injury issues. So it remains to be seen what Rangers do with both of those players this summer. Some people you speak to seem to think that the new regime will really like Dessers because of his durability and his ability to maybe challenge a number one striker. There's a lot of moving parts within that. There is serious interest in I think, is it Turgeman is how it's pronounced?
I'm not too sure how you pronounce his surname, but I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, a lot of there is serious concrete interest in him. But again, speaking to someone recently, they reaffirmed that, look at the wider picture. Rangers have three strikers in there, two on very good wages in Dessers and Danilo, and do the new regime see Igamane as their starting striker? So the Dessers interest has kind of been there right through its time at the club, and is a sellable asset. He scored over 50 goals since he came to the club 2 years ago. He's kind of scored wherever he went. He's gone. He's moved around a lot. And for a club, he's probably an option of, here's someone who we know is going to come in and get us X number of goals throughout the course of the season. I don't think there's anything imminent within that at the moment. And I think, as Dessers spoke about publicly in a press conference after the January window, he said there was something like 10 offers put to his agent. So this is going to go on in the background right throughout the window. Rob and Proper believe, again, there's concrete interest from FC20. Last week, the reports coming out of Holland that it was going to kind of happen at the start of the week. Don't believe that to be the case. I would still expect him to go this window, and I would still expect him to go back to FC20. But I guess in line with a lot of Rangers' other transfer business, as we can get into, Derek, it's kind of, pause in the background somewhat. You could say understandably, you could say that's a bit of a risk given the timeline that they have, the European qualifiers coming up. And now that Russell Martin's officially started, I believe yesterday, as Rangers head coach, and will have a big say in recruitment, would imagine things to really start rolling from here. So no imminent departures that I know of at the moment. You've also got players coming back on loan. Martin spoke about giving people a second chance. Who does that refer to in the squad? It kind of is a bit of a clean break, and part of me doesn't love that, because we've seen that with a lot of different managers and individuals in the building before, trying to give players another chance when maybe you just need to do something new. But there's also a reality that Rangers have Champions League qualifiers in a little over a month, and very important Champions League qualifiers, because if you can at least get to the playoff round, as they were unable to last season, not helped by that referee call, but if you're able to get to that round, then you open up a healthy portion of money that can supplement your transfer business.
Yep, lots to pack in there. We'll touch on the striker situation first of all. I like this. Chris says, just call him the door if he arrives. Yeah. Interesting point from Stephen as well. If Rangers land both at Boy, we touched on yesterday as well, Mattia Frigan that Rangers have been linked with from Westerlo, and Turgeman, that would signal the end of Danilo and Dessers, in my opinion. I think Danilo falls into the bracket there of Russell Martin saying he wants to give players a chance and have a look to see if they can offer something. He never really got an opportunity under Barry when he came in. He had his injury issues prior to that. Dessers we know all about. The only issue I have with Dessers and that interest again is Rangers need to make sure if they are looking to offload him, they can bring someone in that can guarantee the same amount of goals as Cyril Dessers has achieved since he's been at the club. And can you get that amount of goals with the money that you're going to rake in for him? I spoke to Chris yesterday about valuations on Cyril Dessers. What should Rangers look to request from anyone looking to price him away? I said the bidding should start at £5 million. Joshua, I don't know if you agree with that.
He's 30, isn't he? So he's 6 months older than he was in January. The Croatian striker, remind me his name, Derek. It's
Mattia Frigan, I think. I don't know how you pronounce his surname. I think that's how you go.
Not heard anything on that being a live link from anyone I've spoken to. So, whereas Turgeman, the door, that is there is validity to that. He's someone that Rangers have watched for a while. This isn't something that's just kind of cropped up, come out of the blue, if you will. So he's definitely the more likely out of those two. But the comment raises a good point, because fundamentally, I think we'll get on to Dessers, but it comes down to who's your starting striker. Because Igamane, again, it's in the piece, has attracted serious interest from Strasbourg, who also...
Just sorry to bump in there. Do you think Igamane's a Russell Martin player because he likes runners, doesn't he? He likes guys that really bust a gut. Does Igamane fit into that system, do you reckon?
I think he can. I just think he needs coached. You see, watching Igamane, it looks like he's still playing football and he didn't start playing academy football till he was 16. Yeah. And it looks like he's still playing football kind of with his mates on the streets. And there's something that's really refreshing about that.
Absolutely.
And you see, it's 9 art, and also the edges that are a bit rough. Give me that every day for a player who can actually play football, in the most literal sense. For me, Igamane is crying out to just be coached. It's not that he's not a hard worker. I don't think you could level that at him, but there is elements of his game that maybe tactically you can see why Dessers is favoured in big games, because the manager can trust him to always get back into certain positions. I think he could be a Russell Martin player. But again, I think the question is, Derek, is he your number one striker? So you've got to weigh up all these different things. Much like last season, Rangers had interest in Dessers last summer, you'll remember, from the MLS. Don't believe that personal terms were agreed at that point.
Yeah.
But he also scored that goal away in Butland against Dynamo Kyiv, and you're thinking, can he help you get to the Champions League qualifiers? Similarly this year, how do you balance up the fact that he'll be a kind of ready now option, Dessers, as will the likes of someone like Nico Raskin, whose future is another talking point, and we can come on to that, I'm sure we will, in the coming days of the show. But you've got to weigh up all these different eventualities, basically, and for me, I think you need to have, it would either be someone like Igamane or Turgeman is your number one. If you keep Dessers, because this is your last chance to sell him, you're not going to sell him for big money when he's 31 and he's got 1 year left on his deal. I wouldn't mind him being in there as a second striker, a second forward option who contributes but isn't relied upon in every game, which I think has always kind of been the issue surrounding him anyway. And then number 3, Danilo, we know the issues he's had. What type of money are you going to get for him? Is a loan more realistic? And then could you bring in a third striker to challenge too? But if Igamane is going to stay, he needs to be number one for me because he's too good not to be. And I just think he really needs coached. What would you go along with that, or are you?
I said it yesterday. I've got no issue with his age, Cyril Dessers, if he can still produce the goods. His goal scoring record is decent. I know there's an immense frustration there about the chances he misses, but I've got no issue with him being part of the squad next season. I'm not necessarily looking at, let's get the money back we paid for him, because I think he's been a good value signing. I think they have got their money's worth for Rangers for him. Just again, does he fit into what Russell Martin is looking to achieve? So if you're bringing someone else in fresh, then you're hoping that they hit the ground running and they're able to find the back of the net. Not an easy thing to do. Strikers have come into Rangers and they've paid good money for them, and they've not necessarily had the goal return that Cyril Dessers has had. So that is the only sort of concern I would have on that. I mean, look at Danilo as a prime example. I know that he's been injury hit, but I'm still remain to be convinced he could have got the numbers if he wasn't injured during that time that Cyril Dessers has achieved. And there's still question marks over Hamza Igamane as well, and whether he can find the net as frequently.
Think so?
I think so, yeah. I mean, he had that sort of purple patch at New Year time. And then the left wing experiment was taking hold, which I do not want to see again. Incidentally, Hamza was away with Morocco. These internationals, especially friendlies, for me, are utterly waste of time. But he's went away with Morocco and not played in their 2 games. I get it's experience and what have you, training, but I would prefer these boys are on a beach somewhere, relaxing both physically and mentally, as opposed to being jetting around the planet, sitting on a bench watching a football match. But there you go.
Yeah, I don't think Igamane has anything to prove personally, because he only played up to the only time he played up top consistently was when he scored those 12 goals in 11 games. And then he was moved into left wing position. He played off the front of the striker. I think back to a game, and people hopefully can remember this in the mire of last season, which was entirely forgettable, but the 4-3 win away at Dundee, which was actually quite a good win in isolation, when Warren scored and Dessers scored at his 25th attempt. And someone tweeted after, which was the best tweet of all time: "You just cannot give Cyril Dessers 10 chances in a game and not expect to be punished." But if you think of Igamane's performance that day, he attracted a lot of criticism in the first half because he was losing the ball a bit. And while he didn't score, he created 2 goals for a goal for Dessers that was offside. I think he created another goal. He linked the play a lot. And at the end of the season, Dessers is the one who gets the goal because he finishes that off, and Igamane's got 1 less. But on the basis of performance, I think he was better and he was sacrificial for the team. So if you started him as the number 9, the one who's only passing the ball 15 times instead of 40 times, which he's not used to doing. He's never been a kind of attacking midfielder. He's always been a striker. I think he could score a lot of goals in the season, Derek. Look back to the hat-trick he scored against Hibs after he'd had a run of games in that number 9 position. Danilo gets injured about 10 days later. Yeah, and Danilo gets injured 10 days later against Aberdeen. And that's when Dessers comes back in for the rest of the season. And that's my concern about Dessers, is unless you're a really well-coached team, which you'd hope Rangers would be now under Russell Martin, I think the team sometimes suffers from him being up top and doesn't play. While his numbers in isolation are good, I wonder how much he impacts positively and negatively the attack and play around him. And what I mean by that is someone like Igamane or even Danilo are a little bit more two-dimensional. They can come short, they can go in behind, they can maybe take you on with the ball at his feet, whereas Dessers is a bit more one-dimensional in that sense. So I don't have an issue keeping him around as part of the squad. I don't think he should be Rangers' #1 striker. If you're going to sell him, this is your last chance because he's 30 and he's only got 2 more years left in his deal.
Yep, it's a catch-22 with Cyril Dessers. I would be sorry to see him go, incidentally. He's cracking big lad, and he has produced moments of quality at the highest level as well for Rangers in the Europa League. Certainly some goals that will live long in the memory as well. So you're interested to see what's going to happen with him. You mentioned there potential incomings in the striker department. Of course, it's an area that Rangers are looking to strengthen in. Other areas defensively, Joshua, it's clear. Reports at the tail end of last week. Interest in Connor Cody, an experienced centre-back. I don't think I've had you on since that sort of surfaced. I'm just trying to think if there's anyone else that they've been linked with in the defensive side. I'm not too sure off the top of my head. But Connor Cody, would you be a fan of that? Someone like that? I think there is a need for experience to come into what will be a new look squad.
Yeah, just on incomings first, Turgeman or the door. Led to believe that could also push closer to 5 million and 4 million. So it's one to watch in terms of, do Rangers potentially need to move someone on first in the striker position because they're not going to have 4 strikers, or do they sign him and then try and get rid of a striker, but that weakens your bargaining position? So a lot of moving parts up there. And we also reported obviously on Poku from Peterborough.
Yes, that was
another player who's got a lot of clubs after him. A lot of interest from abroad too, 23 years old. The cross-border fee Rangers would have to pay would be less than English clubs if they were able to get that deal over the line. Umar Kamara, we don't believe that deal's going to happen. Sources, we said in that article yesterday, close to the player, suggested a bit of a stall in that deal, and he looks like he's going to go elsewhere. He's a PSG under-19 captain, very much in the mold of other players that Rangers have targeted from European leagues to try and invest in their potential. Someone like Clinton and Ciala coming in for a bit of a free hit, but with a lot of potential upside there. So that's the kind of updated names we've been reporting on. And then Connor Cody as well, as you say, that was one more towards the end of last week. I believe that Rangers have been interested in him in the past, which is an interesting little subplot.
He's worked with Elwell before.
He's worked with Elwell twice.
Yeah.
But also there's been the potential of a move to Ibrox in the past. So it's one that the player has been keen on previously. He's 32. He's got 10 England caps. The difficulty might be, and this is why we're still talking in hypotheticals, because it's all new, Derek. You've got new board, new manager, new head coach, new format of how you do transfers. How much money in terms of wages can you feasibly spend on a 32-year-old? And that's, I think, what Rangers are going to have to weigh up, because we've seen them try to transition to this model of playing younger players. That wasn't helped by the management, I think, for the last part of the season. You see likes of Tom Lawrence coming on for minutes ahead of players in games that didn't mean anything. That was, I think, demonstrative of a wider trend in the second half of the season. But then can you swing back completely to the other way and not focus on player trading and sign experienced players? It's a difficult balance to strike, but Rangers are going to have to strike a balance, because one of the reasons that you need to be a player trading club is also to attract players to the club in the first place. Someone like Nico Raskin, who's been here, 2.5 years, probably the opportune moment for him to move on at 24. His stock's not going to be higher.
Well, I spoke to Chris about this yesterday, Joshua, and of course he's impressing for Belgium now, isn't he? And a World Cup coming up next year. Could his stock be higher if Rangers keep him for another season and he has a great World Cup? More eyes will be on him, even though you'll have a year less on his deal?
I don't think so, because he'd have a year less in his deal, and he'd be 25. And from what one of the clubs reported,
$4 for guys that do well at World Cups, isn't there?
I think World Cups, I think that's a bit like, 1990s when the scouting was more dependent on how a player does in a major tournament. If
Mm.
you've got 1 year left in your deal and he's already 25, I think clubs are also more likely to go, do you know what? We're not going to give you X amount of money. We're just going to wait and agree with the player in January and he'll come for free. Obviously, then you'd have the player here for a certain period of time, but you're not going to get a profit on him. The majority of clubs are looking to sign players under the age of 25. And one of the clubs that we've reported has had serious interest in Raskin for some time. There's interest in the Premier League, led to believe that Wolves is one of those clubs. There's also interest in Porto, which has been there since January. Could you see a situation where Porto look to develop Raskin for a year and then sell him at 25, which is the kind of last chance maybe for a big money move? Not the last chance, but unless he's an absolute superstar, clubs aren't going to pay big money for a 27-year-old because they know in a couple of years they can't flip him for big profit down the line. That's just kind of blanket policy across the board now. So if a new deal isn't going to materialise, the player obviously has had ambitions of going elsewhere. Can Rangers keep him? If they can and they could agree a new deal and it worked for all parties, great. But I think that's a little bit too idealistic. And listen, you need experience. You need players who are able to hit the ground running. And Cody, I think Rangers are probably going to go for 2 centre-backs, presuming that Proper leaves. They need that. They've only got Suter and NCL in the building then. And having a little bit of experience here or there matters. But then you've also got the question of, there's so many hypotheticals are thrown into this, but what about James Tavernier? Is he going to be a right-back or a centre-back? Probably a right-back, but another year in the legs. He's not really got the engine to go up.
They do need a right back though. They do need another right back though. You cannot, agreed. As much as I like the guy, Dujon Sterling is unreliable.
Well, he's still a number of months out. And then again, the question is he, in this system, is he a right back or a centre back? Because he was playing centre back more often before his injury. Josh Mulligan doesn't look like a deal that, while not completely off the table, I'd be a bit more surprised if that happens now, because that was one that had been lined up a little bit of time ago. So right back is a position, I agree, Derek, where you either, I think, need someone to come in and really challenge Tavernier and usurp him there, or sign someone who plays a majority of games, and then Tavernier can kind of flirt between right back and centre back. I wouldn't mind him as a centre back in the Premiership, and he's got the ability on the ball to do it. But again, these are the decisions that Martin's going to have to probably make pretty quickly, because he's not got long in pre-season before those Champions League qualifiers swing around.
Yeah, just on Raskin, I was asking Chris yesterday about if teams do come calling and look to sign him from Rangers, what they should be demanding for him. Not too sure if Standard Liège, if they have, and what it would be in terms of a sell-on fee. But I would be looking at upwards of £25 million. Joshua, thoughts?
Not going to happen. Definitely, I think Rangers. If you would ask me now,
in my opinion.
Say again?
They'd be selling him short, in my opinion, if they go. Chris said 15 yesterday, which I think is just too low for me.
If you're asking what's realistic, I think 15, because he's got 2 years left in his deal. Rangers don't have a track record of selling players for this amount of money. And people will compare it to Celtic, but they have a track record of selling players for over 20 million, whereas Rangers have only done it once with Calvin Bassey. So what is he worth? Raskin, if you compare him to Matt O'Reilly, does he have as high as, who went for obviously 25 million last year? Does he have as high a ceiling? Can he perform at the highest level? Has he done it in Europe? Yes. But clubs also know. They look at the two situations. Celtic last year have a lot of money in the bank, not under huge pressure to sell. Whereas if Raskin's only got 2 years left in his deal, and Rangers probably could, even though they've got this fresh investment, they could do with a player sale. They've not sold a ton of players in recent years. I think you've got to build up the reputation. So I am going to side with Chris Jack here. As much as I'd like Rangers to get more from him, I think he's a brilliant player. And pretty consistently, we've said, even going back to when he was out with the team, I remember so many pre- and post-match podcasts saying that might just not happen for Raskin. But I do think he's a player with quality. And you've seen that very obviously. That's what I think is probably realistic for Rangers getting him this summer.
I think that would be dreadfully low for me. I wouldn't be entering if someone phoned up or the facts came through. I would just be getting ripped up.
But they've got him for $1 million, Derek. They got him for $1 million.
I don't see it,
but talking a huge profit.
Yeah, they should be getting is top whack. He's now a Belgian internationalist and earning plaudits all over the place for his performances. I'm wanting top whack for him, and a sell-on fee as well. Rangers should not be selling themselves short with this guy because they should be building the team around him for next season. He's vitally important for this Rangers side next season. So, it'll be interesting because there is admirers out there. A bidding war would not be the worst thing as well if he is to be moved on. But elsewhere in the pitch, mentioned there right back. Yeah, I definitely think Rangers need both right and left back. If I'm being honest, you touched on Midfan earlier on. Whether he moves this window, who knows? There's always interest in him, of course. Wingers, you mentioned Poku on the right hand side. He's left-footed. I think that would be good because considering Rangers need to spend a fair bit of cash, Joshua, getting someone in for a tribunal cross-border fee would be decent, given that there's other areas of the park they do need to strengthen in, and money will need to be spent to touch on the striker position, which generally is the most expensive players you're looking to bring in. Folk have talked about the goalkeeper position and where that lies in the priority list. All depends. I touched on yesterday with Chris, if Rangers manage to move Jack Butland out the door. If he doesn't go, then it's a problem. What do you do then?
Yeah, 100%. It's a good point to raise, and something we're going to cover in coming weeks. What does Russell Martin actually want from his goalkeeper? Because in games, seeing games like at home against the majority of teams in the Scottish Premiership, I don't think it will be as much of an issue because. And it's the same argument with the low block. See, if teams sit in a low block, I think Russell Martin would quite often take that because it means you've got them camped around the box. You don't have to do all the building up, and a well-coached team is going to be able to break an opponent down over the course of 90 minutes. Similarly, if the pressure really high, I think Martin would bank on, in the majority of games, his team being well enough coached in their build-up to get beyond it. But Jack Butland isn't a goalkeeper who is at his most comfortable, I think, playing out under pressure. And I'd actually argue that probably Liam Kelly is a better goalkeeper with the ball at his feet. So you see, if you look at the pattern of Old Firm games in the last 3 or 4 years, what Rangers have always done, and this is how Igamane scores his goal in the 3-2 win in March, they play over pressure. But then that's also how Rangers concede the first goal to Dyson Maeda, because from a simple situation, they kick it long, they introduce an erratic pass into a game, and Celtic attack them quickly and score at the back post. And this is what I think Martin is going to try and do, is control the territory and control the ball. And there will be short-term pain with that. I'm convinced that Rangers are going to concede some bad goals. I'm convinced that Europe's well, maybe convinced is too strong, but if you stick to, Martin said this in his unveiling day, he said we're going to try and be us in Europe, and that's going to be difficult because Rangers they've got into this habit of playing a bit more direct, which helps you in games against better opponents because you can just go over the press. But then when you actually need to control the game with the ball, it's not as good. So I do subscribe to the theory that Rangers Thursdays might suffer, but Rangers Saturdays might be watchable again for the first time in a long time. And Butland definitely comes into that because you need a pace setter, a tempo setter in goals in those big games, someone who is comfortable taking the ball in difficult situations. And he's on too much money to be a second choice goalkeeper. He lost his place at the end of last season. Is it inconceivable that Martin comes in and revives him and gets a lot out of him? I don't think so. But again, because he's not a goalkeeper who's at his most comfortable with the ball at his feet, it feels like there's a bit of a tension there. What do you think on it? I know you've said for a while you think Rangers need another number one.
Yeah, well, there's sort of been no speculation with regards to Jack Butland, has there? So if there was some noise about his future and maybe some clubs interested, then we could look at potential replacements. It is a long summer still. Window doesn't close until the 1st of January. But but Man City might be looking for a third choice goalie, Scott Carson, being let go. Perhaps that could be a move. Although he's a big Man United fan, isn't he? But I'm sure he'd be quite happy to sit on the bench at Manchester City. That's the big question for me. If he doesn't go, I think those two, Kelly and Butland, will be the goalies next season. And in terms of distribution, that is a big concern. Both of them have a bit suspect when they try and play the sort of sweeper keeper role So I'm a you, Josh. I think these Champions League qualifiers might come too soon with what Russell Martin is trying to achieve and the influx of players that are going to come in. Coming up against some decent sides to get through to the Champions League. I just worry it might be too soon for that, but you never know. It might work some magic. Russell Martin, he started yesterday, of course, officially. He'll be getting his feet under the desk and getting himself involved and having a good old look at the squad and assessing where Rangers are and where he wants them to go. But yeah, interesting stuff for sure. Heads up later on, folks, I will be speaking to a Swansea supporter who covers the Swans in great detail. We're going to get a bit of insight into Russell Martin's time down at the Liberty Stadium. I know we got a bit of insight into his time at Southampton a couple of weeks ago, but it'll be intriguing to see how he's regarded from his time down there. So keep your eyes peeled for that. Don't envisage any breaking news bulletins later on. Don't envisage.
You never know, Derek. This summer, honestly, I'm not writing anything off. We've had quite a few so far, but yeah, it's good. Listen, it's going to be busy, and that's before what actually we enjoy talking about more than anything at the Rangers Review is actual football. So I'm looking forward to the season starting already. But make sure you're subscribed to YouTube on free. A lot of people who watch us, Derek, are not subscribed on YouTube for free, and it is as you know, it's a huge help. So if people are watching just now and they're not subscribed on YouTube, please do subscribe for free. You can join us on the website still for all your best Rangers coverage, and we're going to have lots and lots coming up this week as ever on the website today. Interview with Kevin Thelwell, lots of news updates, lots of features. So yeah, plenty for you to get stuck into over there.
Absolutely. Right, folks, enjoy your Wednesday, whatever you're doing. If you're not on the show later, then I will speak to you again tomorrow morning. So yeah, have a good day, whatever you're up to. Bye for now.